Shruti.
Very good morning, ma'am.
Yeah, so Sadhana Sapthaha has been celebrated throughout India, and Karnataka also is a leading state, which in turn has taken lots of, initiation towards making it, successful, meaningful kind of a celebration. And Shruti, why are we here today?
Yes, ma'am. I'm like much eager to know the content of today.
Yes.
So could you please let me know what are we here for today, ma'am?
Yeah, already it's being displayed there that we are going to discuss and talk about integration of Indian knowledge system in learning and training ecosystems. How do you feel about that, Shruti?
Ma'am, I feel it is kind of much needed content for today's youth. So I'm very eager to know in depth about what is this IKS, ma'am. Could you please briefly narrate us about this IKS system?
Yes, Shruti, IKS is Indian knowledge system, and it is deep, too deep. And if we understand that, we would be able to appreciate how the system, could be a part of day to day administration, day to day training, day to day life mechanisms. And so, as you're asking me, that each one of us would love to know what is Indian knowledge system, and it's only once we know we can feel proud of, that kind of belongingness to Indian system. And here I list a few of them. Let me just start with the core philosophical systems. And they are in the form of darshanas. And these form the intellectual foundation of Indian knowledge traditions, Shruti. And we have Nyaya, which in turn is logic, reasoning, epistemology. Then we have Vaisheshika, which means it is atomism. It's about metaphysics. Then, as per the Indian knowledge system, we have Sankhya, which in turn totally is the subject of dualism, that is Purusha and Prakriti, right?
Yeah.
And we have Yoga, which in turn is the mind body discipline, which most of us are crazy about today. And it is also, yoga means self realization. And we have Mimamsa, and this highlights on rituals, ethics, duties. We have Vedantas, which focus on ultimate reality, that is consciousness, that we got to really understand. This is all that has been, learned through darshanas. That is the core philosophical systems. Well, the next part, Shruti,
Yes.
we have the Vedic knowledge systems. And in Vedic knowledge systems, as you know, we have Rig Veda, totally focusing on hymns and philosophical ideas. Yajurveda, it is totally on rituals and procedures. They have the beautiful inputs for day to day life of a human ethics and integrity. Well, we have Samaveda, which is totally on emotional balancing, covering the music and chanting traditions. And we have Atharveda, which is focused on medicines and daily life practices. Well, Shruti, it is not only the darshanas and Vedic knowledge systems that impart knowledge to our day to day life, we do have associated text from which we could derive beautiful knowledge. And they are Upanishads,
Oh, yeah.
which totally
Heard
preach
about
on
it.
spiritual philosophy. And we have Brahmanas and Aranyakas, which again cater to the meditative knowledge and spiritual knowledge. If we talk about governance and political thoughts, we have Arthashastra.
Oh,
Have you heard about it?
definitely,
Yeah.
ma'am.
And we remember Kautilya's Arthashastra. And it's totally, focusing on statecraftship, administration, and economics. Well, we have Dandaniti, you know, today the judiciary, the legal system struggling hard. And here we have entire focus, and it is on law, justice, punishment systems of Indian origin. Well, we have Rajadharma, which in turn is totally on duties of a ruler and governance ethics. We have Sabha and Samiti traditions, which proved to be the earliest democratic institutions. Well, we have spoken enough of Rajadharma and philosophy and all. We also would love to know something about the science and technology that Indian knowledge system has for us. And to start with mathematics,
Yeah.
we take pride in Aryabhata's astronomy and mathematics. And जब जीरो दिया मेरे भारत ने,
Technology
जब
dependent.
तब दुनिया को गिनती आई. So it's so beautiful. And the concept of zero, the concept of decimal system is again of Indian origin.
So,
And
thanks for today's IT technology, man.
yeah, that proves to be the fundamental of it. At the same time, Jyotish Shastra, which is nothing but the astronomy, and this in turn takes care, gives a beautiful input on planetary motion, the calendars, both solar and lunar, and the eclipses and their impact on human life. It's a beautiful knowledge system. Well, we do have some concepts towards metallurgy, and India's knowledge system has a depth into it, wherein if you could understand the iron pillar of Delhi, even today it's a biggest question mark. How could iron not get rusted? And it's an iron pillar which is rust resistant. And even today, the wonder is how could that technology be created, right? So we really feel proud of our Indian system. Well, even the advanced alloy technology, which is mixing of various metals in different proportions, that, it is inherited into the deep Indian knowledge system. Well, Shruti, you are an engineering graduate, right?
Yes.
And I would like to focus on engineering and architecture too. And here we have Vastu Shastra, which is a part of architectural craze today. People want to know towards which direction should be the main door and all. And here it is totally a beautiful, in depth knowledge of design and spatial harmony. Our Vastu Shastra, takes into consideration. Well, if you look at our Indian temple architecture,
Wow, they are
it's
mind-blowing.
again a big,
Across the world.
fascination, and people still would love to know how could these temples be huge rock cut architecture, or so many beautiful things that we owe to. And the next one, Indian knowledge system also is into water management systems, and it includes the step wells, the tanks, the dams, and the famous example is Kalannai, dam, which today is again a biggest wonder of the world. And it's been so old, but still so much intact, and people just pause on how would be the civil engineering, how could be the technology. Well, Shruti, the Indian knowledge system extends even to medical and health systems. And here we have Ayurveda, which is nothing but is a holistic approach to a human health. And it takes care of three important aspects, that is Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Nadi Shodhana is totally on that. And we also have beautiful heritage of Siddha medicine, and that is the South Indian system of medicine that Karnataka is proud to have it.
We are
And
proud about it.
yeah, I know. And Unani, which is, the integrated system of medical practices, and yoga and meditation to us. And this is a preventive medical system, which is in yoga and meditations.
Yoga is currently world sought out kind
Yeah, and
knowledge. Yeah.
we take pride in having
Very
this
true.
system with us. Well, little focus shall we do on language, literature, and communication that we belong to?
Yes.
And let me just talk about Sanskrit grammar, which
Oh
was
my God.
earlier known as Prakrit, and this is supposed to be the scientific linguistic system.
No. And I
And
take pride in telling you that I was a Sanskrit student.
yeah, even I studied. It was a language for me, and I used to
Yeah.
give speeches also in Sanskrit.
Very
So
nice.
it's a great feel of belongingness, right?
Definitely.
And from epics like Mahabharata and Ramayana, we have the entire literature and communication with the ethics, with the set of social values, moral values, human values. In fact, the professional values seem to be, taken from that. And maybe our samskara and all have come through those
These
preachings,
literature.
those storytellings by our grandparents. And why do we leave out Puranas? Puranas are the cultural narratives of Indian origin. And we do have classical literatures, not only Shakespeare, Shruti, we do have Kalidasa narratives. So beautiful, totally full of romance and all. And classic literature. Apart from that, we have arts and aesthetics that we feel proud of. And one is the classical dancing, there is a Natya Shastra, and we have various performing arts into which Natya is integrated. It could be the drama, it could be the dance, it could be the music, all integrated into one kind of Natya performance. At the same time, we feel proud of classical dances like Bharatnatyam, Kathak, Odissi. They are not only the dances, they tell us about physical health.
True.
The gestures and postures give all those kind of exercise inputs, that we could be healthy and hale and also
When I
enjoy,
look at all those
right?
dancers today,
Yes.
I really feel that
True, true.
you can see the grace they have.
Yeah, that's the way they carry themselves and all. And Indian classical music is supposed to be one of the most beautiful stress management kind of systems that are available. If you're saying well and fine, if you listen, it's again so beautiful. And we have the raga system, right? Various ragas. And we should not leave out the sculpture and temple art, which was slightly part of our artistic kind of historical input from Indian knowledge system. And very important is ethics, values, and social system. We were governed by dharma, that was duty and righteousness. We were governed by karma, which was into day to day deeds, its cause and effects. We are governed by ahimsa, which proves to be the highest human value, that is non-violence. We belong to the set of service oriented seva manobhava, that is totally welfare oriented. We take care of others' welfare also. And Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, this is universal brotherhood that we preach the entire universe, world. And about the education system that we are talking about today, that how do we, integrate this Indian knowledge system into our teachings? And we believed, the first thing is Gurukula system. And this Gurukula system had a holistic value-based, education impartation. Well, Guru Shishya Parampara in Gurukula, that's again totally on mentorship and, hand holding your Shishyas and giving them the best of the best in the form of knowledge. Well, it was also the oral knowledge system. Shruti, you don't believe me, I recently visited Kodagu. They don't have any language in writing, but their culture, this is passed on orally, from generation to generation.
Just like our Janapadas.
Yeah. So that is the oral knowledge transmission that we have. And we should talk on agriculture and ecology also. That proves to be the present, crisis. And we really think about sustainable development and we are bothered about the resources. And we have our traditional farming practices.
Just
Which
like
take care of,
like
yes, we got to
with the oral knowledge transmission, agriculture has also been
true.
Something of that.
And it was a holistic approach of pest management, insect management, maximum yield, and building up a rapport between the plants and human beings. And they were treated as, their friends, and they were spoken to. They used to talk to them, pujas were done, all those beautiful traditional practices.
I just need to add on an example for this, ma'am.
Yeah.
As you said, the plants were treated like friends. There was an experiment which I read about, where there was an experiment where one person was talking all these sweet things with some part of the plants and all those negative things with other part of the plants. And you don't believe me, the research showcased that whichever the plants which these people spoke nicely, those plants gave good yield compared to the negative heard words.
So that's a
So that
beautiful
is,
scientific
yes.
input, you know. People may say it is a superstition,
That's
but
not
it's
when I
not
got
that.
that research, I was like, wow,
Yeah.
things are really real, but people are not aware of it. They
True.
said.
And we believe in biomanures, and we believe in organic agriculture concepts. And believe me, today we are going back to those roots of Indian
Very
knowledge system, you know. And we totally believed on seasonal and climate-based cropping. We believed in sacred groves and biocity conservations. We used to think them that they were the gods, you know,
Very true.
and never touched them, never disturbed them. And that is what is in Kodagu even today, you know. They call it as virgin forest and they worship forest as the gods and all. And let's touch upon a bit on economics and livelihood of people, which was there integrated into Indian system. And here we have Varta, you know. Varta as per Kautilya is nothing but it is a total system of agriculture, trade and commerce integrated to each other. And we have guild systems, that is Shreni system, you know, and they built on the phases of guilds on it. And we also had the sustainable livelihood models as far as the economics and livelihoods were concerned. And last but not the least, the spiritual and psychological systems that existed with us. And we had Dhyana, we had Vedanta, we had Yoga Sutras from Patanjali, right? And not the least, legal and justice systems were involved, and the entire scripts in Smritis. Say, for example, we had Manusmritis, we had Yajnavakalya Smritis. They all had the legal and justice systems. We had the customary law systems as a part of our practice, and we had a beautiful community, you know, dispute resolution system also with us, which was, you know, without any delay, without any complications. It was handled so well. And the military systems, you know, they had their own Dhanurveda. If you look into it, we have warfare techniques, beautiful warfare techniques in it. And if you look at Mahabharata in science, you know, you will know how should be your strategic planning for a warfare. And if you look into our ancient Killa system, fort systems, they have beautiful fort architecture with defense mechanism embedded into it. And today we talk about sustainability and environmental preservation, conservation. And we had the concepts of sacred river, you know, we used to worship them. And there were the like Jivdana kind of.
Very true.
And we revered them. And we had our own ecological ethics, you know, पूजनीय है ना, ये सब हमारे लिए पूजनीय थे. So we never thought of destroying them or you know, what do you call, over exploiting that, which is happening now. And the forest conservation traditions, we can see beautiful. We remember Salumaradatimaka or the Chipko movement, you know, Apiko movement of our Indians. So somebody was there to destroy a tree. We used to go and cling to it, hug it, so that first you kill me before you destroy a plant.
Because of that, in Mysore, we have so many trees. It's so green.
So green. And we had a beautiful water harvesting system. So now, how do we use this in our administration? That's a big question.
True.
Right?
So
And
having knowledge is fine, but making use of it is what
yeah, that's
matters.
what is the focus of
So
today's.
if you could just let me know how all these Indian knowledge system can be integrated with
Yeah.
our training system
Yeah, we
or
will definitely.
our administrative system, that would definitely
Yeah, we
help
belong to
everyone.
administrative training institute, and we need to incorporate these into our training modules, you know.
Yes.
And we will have to just understand how do we. But in brief, if I would say, the ethics could be the dharma part of it.
Correct.
The policies could be the arthashastra part of it. The training could be Guru Shishya or Gurukula pattern. And health could be yoga and Ayurveda. And sustainably could be the entire traditional environmental and ecological systems, right? So I only believe that India's knowledge system are not relics of the past. You may think it was all past, 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 because we have such deep rooted origin. But remember one thing, even today, if we can understand,
Definitely.
if we could imbibe them, you know, they could be the living frameworks for future governance. Right, Shruti?
Yeah,
And let us
definitely.
now, I think it's a time for us to really get into what is presently existing and how do we imbibe, integrate our Indian knowledge system so that we
To
can
the correct
have
scenario.
better governance, better, life systems, better education, better trainings. Wherever we want, we could imbibe the Indian knowledge system. And to start with,
Yes,
should we
please.
start?
Yes, please.
Now, when I say dharma,
Mm.
this dharma definitely will take us from present to what exactly is needed. Today we are talking about governance. And governance, we feel it should be the good governance. It could be the citizen-centric governance.
Much needed.
It should be the trustworthy governance. Rapport building governance.
Transparent governance.
Transparent governance. And it needs to be accountable governance.
Definitely.
With all the accountability. And definitely prison system, which is rule-based. We could convert that to dharma-based governance. And this rigid rule enforcement, which is totally fear-driven compliance, what we find today. Okay? If we integrate dharmo rakshati rakshitaha.
One of the most heard
Yes.
shloka ever.
No?
Yeah.
Whoever, takes care of dharma, dharma would protect him.
Definitely.
And here, can I give you a practical example?
I would love to.
Say, let's take a revenue officer, right? He is handling the disputes. And when he's handling the disputes, he strictly follows the records, the documents, okay? And the documents, most of the time, they are torn, they're tampered, they're outdated to the present digital platform. And ultimately, struggling hard, overburdening himself, wasting time, and saying, trying to have justice based on that would be an injustice.
True.
It said, justice delayed is justice undone.
Very true.
So when we look at this, we need to have the input of dharma here. So how could he take the base of dharma? He could verify the ground realities with the village, with his neighbors, with his relatives. Definitely the public input will be the best justification. And this would ensure fairness than those age-old tampered documents. Okay, it would take care of your time, and you would allow the public participation. People would feel that they are a part of governance.
Yeah.
Because they were given a chance to be a part to their verdicts. And ultimately, it would resolve the disputes because we would have a fair hearing. Right?
Just like old times.
Yeah, and what would be the outcome? Justice-driven governance. And this would build public trust into our systems. Right, Shruti?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Should we take one more example, the second one?
Yeah, please. I would love to.
Now, so for example, today bureaucracy, keeps a distance from a common man.
Very true.
Okay, and we are talking about citizen-centric welfare. How that's possible if we do not go and become one with the common man, right? So, administrator is supposed to be a distant authority in the present practice, right? With all the, the position and the set of rules, regulations, all that govern him. And today we talk about, go back, when I and you, we entered the services, was it not public services?
True.
And we are the public servants.
Very true.
Underline the word servant. and we got to focus on that. And here, administrator has to be treated as a sevak, Jan Sevak. And now comes the shloka, which is derived from our Indian knowledge system. And here it says, Praja Sukhe Sukham Rajnyaha.
Beautiful.
That is, the ruler finds his happiness in the happiness of his
citizens,
common man or citizens, right? And definitely we conduct various grievance readdressal system has come up. Both we have the sabhas, gram sabhas, and we have the ministers meetings, we have the chief ministers meeting, reaching out at the village level, taluka level. So that means that even the government wants to be a part of a common man, and then only the grievance readdressal system can really act properly, right? And
to this,
yes, yes,
Artaka's very own Janaspandana system.
so beautiful.
Such a beautiful
But then only thing is the layers of the government system, what we call it as hierarchy, it in turn slightly complicates our reach out. And in fact, we struggle through our layers, right? And Janta Darshana, or the public hearing directed by our deputy commissioners, by our ministers, by our secretaries. It's a beautiful system that we got, okay? So, in fact, when we imbibe this kind of shlokas into our day-to-day administration, believe me, we will have an improved accessibility to a common man, to the citizens, and definitely that will build on rapport with the present administration, right? And let's try to know that today we are only training, giving information. Okay, correct. We prove to be the devices of taking the information from government to the common man, right? So instead of that, why can't we be the reasons of transformational learning, especially ATI, Shruti? We need to focus on it, that, right? So, in fact, whenever we see, we have the lecture based, we have the exam oriented kind of, education, trainings, and all that we find, but we lack mentorship, we lack facilitation, we lack experiential sharing and learning. Practical oriented, field encashments, field experiences, to be taken up so that we reach out to a common man's problem more genuinely than generalizing our approaches, right? And we got to be real gurus. Shruti, we are from ATI, and as we train our officers, we stand in the position of a guru. And in Indian context, it's beautifully said, Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. So when people have in Indian systems, Guru is on par with God, and we being the training institute, we should not, refrain ourselves, we should not restrict ourselves only to classroom, teaching, training mechanisms. We got to really come out, and that already ATI is doing. Perhaps we got to focus more on it. There is more number of visits to the field levels, more number of interactions with the common man, with the community groups, as a bridge, yeah, with self-help groups, yeah. And this is all to understand the ground realities, very true, without which governance can never have a true planning, the schemes that can truly touch the requirements of common man at grassroots level. That's very, very important. So if we follow this Indian knowledge system of Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, and place ourselves, how should be our training? Definitely our officers would be more empathetic. That's what we keep on underlining. Officers are to be empathetic. You got to put your legs into their shoes and understand. And if you're empathetic, definitely it is solution oriented kind of administration that we look actually ahead towards. And one thing, Shruti, what I feel, we have very less time. Otherwise, given the whole day, we can carry on. But present day, system of public administration.
Mhm.
It is totally stressful, right? Time is a constraint, knowledge is a
Resources are
constraint,
constrained.
and human resources are a concern,
Correct.
and we really got to have a mindful governance. If we are irritated, if we are running the race, if we take the decisions without understanding,
Yeah.
it would be a mess.
Even though we are doing everything,
Yes.
it is not giving the ultimate result
Yeah,
which
and
we
most of
expected.
us are not having good health, or we suffer some problems. So I believe today's system, which is high stress,
Mhm.
and the decisions are reactive,
Many
and you make the
times.
reactive decision. It is not required. And let us try to integrate our Indian knowledge system into it, and we believe there is a beautiful shloka saying that samatvam yoga ujjayate. That is,
Yoga.
we really got to have the administrative officers who can look into their well-being also. And then only you can do good to others. If your well-being is not taken care of, the
How will you
well-being of
take
the
care of
society,
others?
you know.
Yeah.
So that is very, very important. And we got to really understand, we got to have more classes on emotional intelligence. Where do you waste your emotions? You know, wasting your emotions at times is not,
Worth it.
worth
Yeah.
it. Yeah. So we got to come up in trainings some components of,
I feel stress
yoga.
management is
It's
much
very, very
needed.
important.
Correct.
It could be the music, it could be the any art form, it could be the yoga, it could be the pranayamas, it could be the meditations, even for 5 minutes, between the sessions. Not only take us back to our belongingness, deep rooted into Indian knowledge system, at the same time could be appreciative enough that this gives not only the mental peace but also gives the strength to your physical competency. That's very, very important. And better emotional control, we would be, gathering out of it, and we would reduce our burnouts, which are common glimpses of today's administration.
The administration.
And with all the peace, mind, and relaxed temperament, we would be able to have a better decision making.
Very true.
Right? And let us go from the governance. Today, what I find is governance doesn't have a holistic approach. It's being fragmented into
True.
components, to this, to that, to this, to that. It's fragmented.
Focused on rules.
Yes. And that's a holistic governance that is in turn is needed, because today definitely we are talking about coordination, interdepartmental coordination,
Integration of
sectoral
systems.
integration,
Correct.
intersectoral collaboration. All those we are talking about, and definitely that is the insight that is needed. And here, remember one thing, that we have a shloka which says samadoshaha samagnischa.
Meaning?
So if you are united,
Okay.
integrated, together we would be able to take over the burden of the responsibilities, and we would be able to give a better administration. So that's very, very important. And so for example, I would like to take a malnutrition program that's happening with women and child, for better women health, better child health, that is taken. Now earlier, if you look at that, we were planning on what should be the nutritious balanced food, right? And the government has taken the scheme, and it has taken care to see that it is beautifully scientifically framed. It should comprise of this amount of carbohydrate, this amount of proteins, this amount of fats, minerals, salts, and all the
With all
content,
the
which
nutrients.
goes to be in a balanced diet, nutritious diet for a pregnant woman or a child. But is it sufficient that we focus only on planning it, formulating it, and distributing it? But Indian knowledge system, gets deeper, much deeper into it. Only distributing this kind of food is not sufficient.
Mm-hmm.
Do we have the data on it?
Correct.
Did we have a follow-up mechanism on it?
impact analysis,
Could be
evaluation.
analysis, all
That will
that.
help to improve it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or else we'll keep on coming up with the same errors again and again. And the governance would not be, getting the credit of the good governance or
Yeah.
people appreciating the
Government
governance.
is doing
Right?
its best in
Yeah,
every
it's
part,
doing
but
best.
ultimately,
True.
maybe because of not knowing the outcome or
Yes,
impact.
yes. And when we look into this kind of Indian knowledge system inputs, definitely will have a sustainable and long-term impact mechanisms on government schemes. People will relish, people will remember, people would demand that we want, and that's how the
Government and
trust is
citizen
built.
together.
People would this, and now what I find is at times, we have a sense of exploitation. You know, people do believe that they are being exploited, as far as development is concerned. And why should we pay the tax? It's a developmental activity. And
Correct.
people keep on telling common man's tax is being misused, right? So at times the exploitation kind of feel comes into our governance, which is to be, replaced by sustainable governance.
Correct.
That's very, very important. And uh, in the race of achieving maximum or becoming more advanced scientifically, technically, are we not over exploiting our natural resources, Shruti?
A lot.
Yeah,
So
and that's
that
how
is
we
where
talk on
all this
conservation, preservation,
sustainability.
sustainable,
Yeah.
all that, and
But it
it's
is high
just
time we look into all this
true,
sustainable
true.
planning and
Mm.
sustainable
How many
governance.
of us we have been allotted with the quotas? How many of us we think about the water is 24/7? Have we thought of preserving it, conserving it?
Correct.
And the electricity that comes into us, and putting off the ACs whenever it is not needed, though they are a part of comforts
Simple
given to us.
actions
Yep.
can definitely save a lot of energy.
So in Kannada, being from Karnataka state, I would say, honey, honey, goodi dare halla. So small
Yeah.
actions, contribute towards huge sustainable
Like, I
frameworks.
feel every one of us can relate. When we were young, our parents used to tell us, or scold us.
Yeah.
Whenever we come out, we have to switch off the light. So it was kind of rule, and whenever we miss, we could scoldings the whole day from our
Yeah.
parents, right? So our parents had these values of saving, that is for the future, for the sustainability. So I feel us now, we have that baton with us, and we have to pass it on to everybody about this sustainability.
True. And definitely Indian knowledge system, though people may say that we are orthodox or we are not scientific, but the kind of reverence we have towards our natural resources,
True.
we pray rivers, we owe our trees and everything. So
Forest,
animals,
whatever. Oh yeah.
Varaha, Avtara, all the
Vishnu's Avadara.
Avtaras are all, the animal that shows the respect we have towards the flora and fauna of Indian systems. And here, definitely, when we follow the Indian knowledge system, we start developing the respect for natural resources. And here is a shloka that I say, Mata Bhumihi, Putrohiha, Prithvyaha. So everything is being, taken care. We offer up rain. We think them to be the gods.
Right.
And that's a practical example, So, for example, I would like to say today we are talking about water management, right, Shruti? And if you ask our people, they'll come up with so much of scientific technology and advancements and, the engineering inputs, architectural inputs and all. But why don't we think about the existing water resources which have been neglected, which have been lying idle,
Yeah,
Why don't we
rivers,
connect?
reviving those.
Why don't we integrate our present system with the ancient systems that we have a sustainable kind of development in ours? So it could be the reviving of traditional lakes or step wells or tank systems, especially in Karnataka, then digging the borewells every now and then. Okay, it's just a thought process. I believe it would take time, but at least
Definitely.
the
But
thought process has been initiated, you know.
one person changing is also a
It
change. That
means
is
so
what I
much.
feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tum chalo to Hindustan chale. You know,
Definitely.
people are wanting, but it's who would initiate.
Correct.
And perhaps initiation is what is expected from each one of us. And we initiate today this beautiful session on discussion on, you know, how do we integrate the Indian knowledge system into
True.
the present
Scenario.
context. That's very, very important. Well, we also believe that most of the decisions that is being taken in today's world is authority based, you know. So we believe if we look into the Indian knowledge system, I believe instead of authority based, it should be evidence based, right? Governance.
Correct.
So that that will you know, instead of top to down orders, you know, we could think of logical reasonings and giving a chance to each and every person to be open enough so that the systems could be integrated, right? So we have
Can be used in this
yeah,
evidence-based
yes,
decision making today.
true. And
Karnataka government is making every effort possible with respect to this evidence-based
policy formulations,
policy
you know,
formulations, yeah.
that needs this kind of input. And it's very clearly said that yukti yuktam upadeyam. So the reasonings from each and every one would definitely be of great inputs, you know. And we could use, say, for example, we already are doing that. So if you look at our dashboards,
Correct.
take an
Report
example
format.
of Sakala dashboard, you know, and it's so beautiful that our decision making has been, you know, beautifully reflected than assumptions because data are realistics.
Correct.
And they will convey the realistic inputs when you
Instead
analyze
of
it.
words,
Yeah.
data will help us to understand better.
Yes, and taken from each and every level, you know.
True.
That's very, very important. Involving everyone so that on an average it proves to be right. Yes, that's very, very important. And definitely we can have more accurate and transparent governance if we make use of the dashboards. If each and every department, each and everything that is taken up as a development activity or as a training component or as an inclusive this, and if could collect the data on it, and they play an important role. And Shruti, one more thing, the next part when we cover, we believe that we are from result pressure, you know, target oriented.
True.
You know, you should achieve this. So that result pressure could be taken care, um, could be, you know, slightly substituted by duty oriented services. If I'm committed, if I'm in time, if I give the best during my office hours,
True.
pressure wouldn't build up.
Very true.
Yeah. So we have this beautiful shloka, you know, karmanyavadikarasya mafalesha kadachana, right?
Correct.
Do not bother about the results. Give the best. That only you have adhikara. So you have adhikara on your karmas and give the best what you can. And I think the results would be awaited. You know,
Very true.
they'll be waiting for us, the best
So,
results.
a part of job must be done with all due respect. That is what I feel.
True.
We are allotted with it. We will do it with full power, whatever is possible.
Yeah, and the thing that we really feel bad is, you know, we shouldn't inflate our results. You know, achieving the targets, this should not be done. And definitely, Indian knowledge system talks on honest reporting. You know, even if the targets are not achieved, giving reasons why that could not be achieved.
Correct.
You know, so that it becomes convincing. People would accept that. And definitely, anything that we lag behind, we lag would be with corrective actions. Then only the results would be proper, you know. So this definitely would build credibility and accountability. Instead of boosting our reports with all inflations, you know, showing that we were successful,
Correct.
perhaps we wouldn't be realistic enough. and our credibility and accountability would be lost,
True.
or diluted. So we got to really focus on that. And the next part that I would love to say is we are leaders. We do have leadership, but the leadership vested in power.
Oh.
So slightly, looking into our Indian knowledge system, if this could be substituted by a leadership which is value-based, instead of you saying your leader and listen to me, people would flock around you,
Correct.
because you prove to be a role model. You prove to be, the point of center of, knowledge, and people come to take decisions, take your input, and they accept you as a leader, right? That's very, very important. And in fact, earlier, what I could say is it was command and control kind of leadership, and we got to set leadership by example.
Correct.
Preach before
you.
practice, that's there.
Preach
So, yada charati sreshta. So, whoever is the best would always be the lead. That is what we believe in. And we really got to have, if you want to be the leader in the system, I believe time sense, discipline, punctuality, transparency, all create the leadership. And as we said, practice what you preach. That would be the best way of. Okay. So with this, I think the entire departments or the people under you would adopt ethical culture because you are the role model for them, and they would definitely would be the role models for somebody else who are subordinating them. That is what they say. Well, one more component in the present system, what would be is the division kind of governance, the governance that is into divisions, that is into, categorizations, would be substituted by inclusive governance, and this inclusive governance, earlier we believed divide and rule policy. Yeah, but that mindset, I think, I don't think it's
We must overcome that
existing.
divided.
But we should appreciate that we cannot create a beautiful rule by divides, and we could narrow the divides by inclusive kind of strategic planning. That's how we have a beautiful roster system. We try to bring all those components, to the mainstream through our inclusive strategic planning. And that's what a beautiful planning we have with the existing system. And if it is inclusiveness, then be sure that it is welfare for all, isn't it? So make sure of that. So here comes Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. Sarve bhavantu sukhina, right? So prosperity for all, and we got to be having a special, empathy towards our inclusive components like women, children,
elderly,
ST, yeah, marginalized group, elderly people, so senior citizens, they are to be prioritized whenever we plan, when we think about training or governance. That's very, very important. So, what are we going to achieve, Shruti? Out of this, what would be the outcome? We will have a beautiful social harmony. Today we find we are divided regionally, we are divided over castes, we are divided over religion, we are divided, the states are divided in between, and we are divided over the resources, like Madai controversy, that we and Goa, we are, so these things, would be taken care of, and it would result into social harmony and in fact the development which is equitable. And I think it's timer another 10 minutes, so we would like to say that in fact the existing system, which in fact has still the impact of colonial input. At times, capacity building commissions talking about decolonizing uh, of the existing system and bringing the Indian knowledge system so that we could take pride in saying it belongs to us. And we are sure about the results because till now, whatever we discussed, it is in fact reawakening of we the Indians towards our knowledge system. And it is only a kind of thought process that could shift us from control to consciousness, from power to service.
Correct.
Am I right, Shruti? And in fact, from meager systems to values.
Value-based system. Correct.
And its true knowledge is always, liberating. Whenever a person possesses true knowledge, it liberates us from all the unwanted kind of restrictions. And as it is beautifully said, an administrator rooted in Indian knowledge systems does not merely govern, but he or she transforms the society with wisdom enrooted into our Indian knowledge systems, and we derive wisdom out of it. It also transforms the society with compassion and integrity. So, sa vidya ya vimuktayate. So, this is very, very important for all of us. And we believe that this discussion, this session, definitely would liberate us as knowledge liberates. So, my final conclusion would be integrating Indian knowledge systems into administration or training or education or any part that you feel, it's not a reform. It is a return to wisdom that can transform governance into a force of justice, compassion, and sustainability. And with this, I think, Shruti,
Yes,
we
ma'am.
end our discussion. And we also, once again, would say we are proud to be Indians. And as we go through the Indian knowledge system, we feel more attached, more integrated, more passionate,
Correct.
And integrating these into our present systems wherever possible. Perhaps we could start with a minute dimension.
True.
And slowly the desire of it, because the results would be clearly indicative that it would take care of holistic approach on well-being and administration.
True.
And believe me, even if you say no, they would be bringing those knowledge systems into our day-to-day life, right? And once again, thank you. Jai Hind and Jai Karnataka.
Thank you, ma'am. It was such an informative session. I would tell you it was enlightening to know about our Indian knowledge system, how deep rooted it is. It is such a bless that I'm here with you today to know all these things and how it can be integrated with our day-to-day learning and
Shruti, this is
ecosystem.
just a small fraction. Within an hour, we had to finish. But
Correct.
do you know? Soon after the session, I'm going to go
Now
back
I'm
and dive deep into the details of our system.
Correct. Now I'm regretting why it is only 1 hour. But
Yeah.
anyway, ma'am, within the given stipulated time, you have given us wonderful information. I would like to thank you on behalf of all the audience and from myself.
And we thank the Capacity Building Commission of India and IGOT platform for giving us this opportunity and having this discussion go live to each and every one of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.